The James White and GOCC debate. Well, I can't really call it a debate, but James White was speaking to one of the brothers from GOCC, and people, I just wanted to address this because people have heard me in some other videos said among the Israelites. I'll say shout out to GOCC because I know among all of the Israelite doctrine, they stick closest to the Bible, New and Old Testament. Those other camps, they're just I'm not gonna even talk about them right now. But James White and GOCC, there was clearly my brother in GOCC is not really a debater. He don't understand public debate and forums and how you're to conduct yourself in a debate. There's certain rules and regulations, and there's a lot of people that in school they practice this and they take classes on the subject of debate. But he just want to deal with the Bible, and he's a fundamentalist Israelite. In GOCC. Like I say, shout out to those guys. But James White is a scholar. James White teaches Hebrew and Greek. He teaches church history. This is his job. This is what he do. And people often, like I would make the statement, people would make statements in the barber shop, but that's not what they talk about in scholarship. That's what they say in the barbershop, what they say in the hood, what Israelites say on the corner is not what scholars believe, is not what history teaches. A lot of times we want to forget history because, Christian mystics or whatever, we want to have faith, we want to believe. We'll just start picking up things and running with them, but they won't work when it comes to a scholarly circle when you come in that cipher or in that setting. Perfect example, King James was black. Not only Hebrew Israelites, black people, listen to me and listen to me well. Y'all have a good history. Hebrews, y'all have a good history. Don't start taking people and just making other people anything, because you'll be just as wrong as those other people taking Jesus, a brown man, and making him a blue-eyed European. I haven't seen any evidence that King James was black, that King James was a Hebrew Israelite. I'm in the process of learning. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but from the little bit that I have studied, that I have searched out, King James was not a black man, and there's a lot of people sounding crazy, making certain people. They just want to make certain people black. That debate was out back in the days with Cleopatra, and people talking about J. Rogers and Dr. Ben. That's a whole nother thing. And which Cleopatra were they talking about? How Cleopatra was African and all of this other stuff. There's a lot of craziness on the internet. And this GOCC debate proved that it was some of that stuff. For those that are with me in Sunday seminary, we spoke about the Nicene Council. I've heard so many people, especially on the internet and Da Vinci Code, and they start saying that Jesus' divinity came at the Nicene Council. So now y'all students from the Sunday seminary, we spoke on that. Anybody that says that, I was looking at that documentary, Hidden Colors. Tariq is his name, I believe. Hidden Colors. And I see Anthony Browder on there and Phil Valentine on there. I hear Omar Johnson, and they're all talking about the Nicene Council, but they're not coming with a primary source. They're not coming talking about Eusebius Pamphilius and who was there. They're not talking about the meetings from the council. We have the meetings from the council, and James White brought that out. So my brother from GOCC, he was looking a little crazy with that. And another thing that we talk about in Sunday seminary, this is the reason I'm doing this video, is because these are things that we go over, and it's a lot of people talking about it on the internet, and now it's spilling out. Once GOCC start dealing with James White, they're coming into mainstream, and I've been dealing with pastors and telling pastors, you've got to be ready for the Israelites in front of your church. There's a lot of pastors, y'all need to get steep inside that, inside the history of the Bible, how the Bible was developed. Now, he brought up the Septuagint or Septuagint. Now, the Septuagint is a Greek translation from 250 BC, and I explained to y'all that when Alexander the Great came on the scene in 333 1432 and he took over, he made the Greek the lingua franca. There were Africans, there were Europeans, there were all type of Asiatic people that spoke the Greek language. That did not mean that he was that anybody that spoke Greek was European. And I think a lot of times people get that confused. And my brother brought out some points about the Bible being translated. There were not enough Hebrew manuscripts of the New Testament. Scholars don't really know about Hebrew manuscripts of the New Testament. That was the common language. The Greek was the common language, and this is why we believe that the Most High waited until this time, and he allowed Alexander the Great and all of that stuff to happen. The Romans, you can say what you want. These white people, Alexander the Great, made all of the known world that he conquered, the lingua franca, that unified what later on became known as the Roman Empire. The Romans were the first one to build roads. I know that y'all talk about the pyramids in Africa and what blacks and Cushites and what Egyptian kings did, and that's beautiful and that's fine and dandy. But the first one to make highways on this planet were white people. And they were known as Romans, so that made ready for the gospel to be spread. There was one language that everybody spoke, was the lingua franca. Now, did the apostles speak Aramaic, which was a local language? Yes, of course they did. Let me see how I can explain it in another way. You can have, I do construction and I got some Mexican guys on the job, and there's some Mexicans that come here and they can move around in the little neighborhood that they are in Atlanta. They can move around in New York. They can move around and not speak English. But to really move around, you need to know English. Plain and simple. Yeah, there's Mexicans that's here and they have cars and they go to work and they pay their rent and everything, and they don't speak no English. But to really flourish, those brothers and sisters that's Mexican that came here and learned the language, and they're stressing their children to learn the language, that was the lingua franca. That was the language of trade. You had to have known that. Manuscript evidence. James White deals with manuscript evidence. He deals with Bible history. So a lot of Israelites, y'all are going to look really, really crazy, especially when you start coming into contact with more educated pastors, more educated evangelical Christians and scholars. King James, the Bible was in the New Testament was in Hebrew. 250 years before Christ came on the scene, we had the Septuagint. 250, 280, we had the Septuagint, and that's because of that, there were so many Israelites that were not they were Hellenistic, they just lost the language over time. Y'all got here on the slave trade, y'all lost your language over time. This is nothing great, this is nothing supernatural, this is normal things that happen. There's no great phenomenon. This is something normal that happened. As years went on, the Israelites, 250 years before Christ came on the scene, they lost their language, and in Alexandria, Egypt, they translated the Old Testament into Greek, and that was the common Bible of the Hebrew Israelites in the first century. That's what they read from. So we got to know history, and once again, to my Sunday seminary people, y'all have to make sure you understand the timelines. I see my brother from Gocc had the timelines like a lot of people do, confused. I told y'all in other videos, I can't say that 50 Cent invented rap music once I can find a rap group before 50 Cent was on the scene. That disqualifies the statement. We make a lot of statements and we don't prove what we're saying. And there's a lot of people out here making comments about the Trinity and Nicene Council and Christmas, and they don't understand the timeline, what the Catholic Church and the Pope did. And then I asked them, when was the first Pope? How did the office of the Pope came about? Through the Roman bishop, and they don't understand the timeline. They don't understand the history. So that those are a couple of things I wanted to deal with. King James was black, no proof whatsoever. Put religion down. Black folk, we acting crazy trying to make everybody black. Israelites, y'all got to be careful with that. Now, the other thing that came up was, well, Berean, I heard you shout out GOCC, but are the Israelites a cult? They might be considered a hate group with the FBI, especially on GMS and all that other stuff that's going on right there. They may be a cult, considered a hate group like Phineas priesthood and other European Christian identity movement. It's just the opposite spin some people feel of the same thing. Oh, the white Jesus, the white Israelites are chosen and the blacks are cursed. And it's the other way around. Blacks are chosen and the whites are cursed. When we start dealing with scholarship, we got to put some of that stuff down and we got to come to the table with facts. Facts of the matter is most people in the first century spoke the lingua franca, which was Greek, which was the common Greek. It was a street Greek. It wasn't even the Greek of the intellectuals. I'll deal with King James and the King James Bible perfect later on. But I wanted to bring this out to my Sunday seminary people and other people that are watching. Like I said, shout out to Gocc. They're the closest out of all the Israelite camps. But historically speaking, when we talk about a Christian cult or a cult is the breakaway of something. The Nation of Islam is an Islamic cult. They don't follow wholly the Sunnah or the tradition of the Prophet Muhammad. That's Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. They part of the Nation of Islam, but worldwide Islam do not recognize them. They're a breakaway. They use the book and they call themselves Islamic, but they don't do everything the true Muslims and Prophet Muhammad Ibn Abdullah did. They don't do that. Christian cults are anybody that break away from orthodoxy. Remember, we dealt with that in the class. Orthodoxy is just straight or right thinking. Orthodontist, straighten out your teeth. Straight or right thinking. When you start dealing with that, a lot of people, like I say, a lot of people often get confused. But I don't want to get too much into that because Sunday Seminary is going to be starting in a little while. And it's going to be an ongoing thing. For you people that's already in the class, y'all going to get your certificates in another 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm going to continue. I'm going to go straight into Kingdom of the Cults, and I'm going to explain some other things. But James White, with that this is his lane. This is what James White, this is what he do. So make sure you understand the Nicene Council, because that seems to be a big thing among these people. And let me just finish up that other thing about the cults. A cult is anybody that denies the deity of Jesus, the nature of Christ, who Jesus is. And the brother was trying to argue some points, but he didn't bring out, he made statements, but he didn't bring out his points. He didn't bring out his points correctly. And like I've often told y'all about that 50 cents in rap music, if I can go back, James White, he started to quote Athanasius and some other people. I have a list here of some people that we can quote. We have to understand that the doctrine of the Trinity existed before Constantine, before the Nicene Council. Y'all just ask anybody who was at the Nicene Council. I challenge Omar Johnson on that. Name 10 people in the room. A lot of people, they just pick up what they say. I hear Seti say it. People on Sinetta TV, they make statements about the Trinity, the Nicene Council, and then when I catch them, they don't know key players. I'm asking you straight up, give me some key players. What's a primary source for that? Y'all make sure y'all push them in the corner. Don't let them just make statements. And there were certain things that James White didn't let the brother get away with. Oh, wait a minute. You said King James was black. That's a big, serious statement to make. You gotta show and prove that. Then you start talking about the Apocrypha. We're going to get into the history of the Apocrypha. Did the Jews accept the Apocrypha? Do you know what the Council of Jamnia was? Do you know when it was? Do you know what that had to do? When the Bible says the law, the prophets, and the writing, what books are those considered? A lot of us are confused. So I'm going to go on with the Sunday Seminary. It's not going to even be any registration. After watching that, the people, the sisters and the brothers that's in the class, thank y'all for y'all donations. We're asking for donations to do some stuff with brothers, but this teaching have to be out. We'll work something else out with my brothers in the penitentiary. We're trying to get them some concordances and do some stuff with them to prepare them just for hitting the streets and their spiritual walk and what they're going through. Another thing that I'm thinking right now with the concordance, when I teach y'all about the concordance and how the brother from Gocc brought up the concordance to James White, when you teach Hebrew and Greek, when you read Hebrew, when you read Greek, you don't need a concordance. That's for those of us that don't understand, that we're not fluent. We don't read the Greek language, so that can help us with the words. Or the blue letter Bible, is always better to read the original languages. We don't have no argument with that. So when he's trying to check James White, and he's been patient with him, when you're trying to check James White and he's a Hebrew and Greek teacher, he's a scholar in that field, and you're talking to him about concordance, scholars don't even deal with that. But I guess the brother didn't know. like I said, shout out to those brothers. But the truth is the light. We're gonna have to deal with the truth and bring it all together. And I'm just, I just thank the Most High that the scholarship is stepping up. Israelites gonna have to step up the scholarship. Christians, there's people out there attacking what you believe. Know the history of the book. One thing my brother did, he kept quoting the book, quoting the book, quoting the book. And I love the Bible. We love the word. We're believers. But you have to understand the development of the Bible, how the Bible came together. And that's why we're going to get more into that. I'm going to go get ready. I can't go no further into it because I got on 2 40-minute sessions with the Sunday seminary. We're going to do 40 minutes on the Zoom, and then we're going to take a 15-minute break. Then we're going to do 40 more minutes, and I have the 50 questions for y'all. And one last thing with the Sunday seminary, with the 50 questions and all the teachings that we've been going through, I just want to make sure that y'all have this stuff down packed. So I would ask y'all certain things after going through the class, and it's not that I'm trying to hate, but I want to make sure you have it. So I'll ask you trick questions like how many books in the Bible did Timothy write? 1 or 2? Now that's a trick question. Most people get that wrong. Y'all figure that out. That's going to be on the test. That one's for free. Thanks.